What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Coming up on today's show, we got 3 segments to hit on. The first one being the latest on the Deshaun Watson front, as Roger Goodell spoke about him at the NFL meetings yesterday. And then we got some new Baker Mayfield trade buzz happening, as both Barry and Stefanski have now commented on that. And then finally, could Deshaun Watson be the reason why Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are breaking up? We'll see about that at the end of the show. But first, the latest on the Deshaun Watson legal news, whatever you want to call it as, because Roger Goodell was at the NFL meetings yesterday, and he fielded some questions from reporters, and surprise, surprise, the biggest question he was asked about was Deshaun Watson and the suspension, or a potential suspension, I think I should say, and what that could look like. So we got some quotes for you so you guys can get it right from the horse's mouth. Here's what Goodell said, all right? Our people are working on it. Obviously, these are serious charges, so we're looking at this seriously. We now have at least resolution from the criminal side of it. Obviously, there are still civil charges that are going on, so our investigators hopefully will have access to more information, and that will be helpful of getting to the conclusion of what are the facts, and was there a violation of the personal conduct policy. But that determination will be made by a disciplinary officer that was established by the NFLPA and NFL. So she will make that decision when the facts are all in, and we'll see. There's no time frame on that. In English, what does any of that mean? All right. So basically, my 2 takeaways was Watson not getting charged criminally was, of course, a big deal for a lot of reasons. But in the NFL's eyes, it shows that, hey, we're not going to seriously pursue a suspension potentially for someone that doesn't have criminal charges, which hasn't always been the standard, right? We saw that with Ezekiel Elliott a couple of years ago. He never got charged with anything criminally, but he still got a 6-game suspension. Another thing was that it sounds like whoever's in charge of the personal conduct policy, whoever that lady is, ball's in her court. We'll see what she wants to do in terms of eyeing up and sizing up a potential suspension as she leads an investigation. Another takeaway, no timetable on a possible suspension. Goodell did not say, we're hoping by the end of the month, or, by training camp we'll have an idea. As long as these civil suits are going on, it sounds like the NFL is just going to fly in a bit of a holding pattern. I don't see them reaching a conclusion, and we'll touch more on that later on in the video. But first, what do you guys think about this question? Will Deshaun Watson play week 1? Type P for play or type S for suspended. Let me know if you think Watson's going to be out, hopefully at First Energy Stadium. I'm not really sure who I want the Browns to play week 1. Maybe the Steelers to kind of just kick them in the butt right out of the gates. But let me know. P for play, S for suspended. And while you're commenting, make sure you follow us at rumble.com by clicking a link. It's pinned to the top of the comments section. It's also in the description. And help me out here because the Browns Report is 3rd at Chat Sports right now of most subscribers. Rumble's an up-and-coming video platform service that gives you uncensored content. So help us catch up to the Chiefs. And producer today, Producer Marsh, as always, he runs our Giants channel. Let's get him off our tails a little bit. Let's get some separation there. Another interesting thought I had, and Chops also shared the same thing when he tweeted out, pretty sure Big Raj just said Deshaun Watson won't be placed on the commissioner's exempt list. So this was a little bit later on in the press conference. Roger Goodell said this: if the criminal had proceeded, that would more likely have triggered commissioners exempt. I think at this point, a civil case in and of itself would not do that. If there's a violation of the personal conduct policy, that may trigger something, but that would more likely trigger some kind of discipline in some fashion. If there is no commissioner's list for Deshaun Watson, that is huge, because if you rewind to last year, I thought the reason Deshaun Watson was not placed on the commissioner's list during all the investigations was because the Texans weren't playing him. So the NFL didn't have to do anything. He wasn't going to go out there anyway, so why take action? They could just be the good guy and just kind of step back and let him not play anyway. Everyone's happy. But now that he's on a new team and he's going to play, what if these suits aren't settled by week 1? We know that the criminal side, at least for now, is done. So what if the suits continue into week 1? And Roger Goodell says, well, we're not going to place him on the commissioner's list because there's no criminal charges. So is he just going to play as long as these suits go on before they are settled, and then afterwards the NFL goes, now that all that is done, we will finish our investigation and hand down a potential suspension or a penalty that we see fit. Makes you wonder if that could open up a path for Deshaun Watson to play in Week 1. All right, what do we think about this one here? Do you guys like Roger Goodell? Y for yes, N for no. When he suspended Brady, I was kind of happy just because I was like, I'm not a Patriots fan. I don't give a shit about Tom Brady in terms of like, oh no, the cheater has to play or can't play, whatever. But like the guy's a bit of a clown, but the NFL has never been in a better state under him, so I'll give him some credit there. Let me know, Y for yes or N for no. Jimmy Haslam was also asked about this whole hugabaloo, and here's what he said. I think you just need to let the process run its course, and we're comfortable that that'll lead us to a good position. And I think the league will feel the same way. So Jimmy Haslam is the owner, and he's just giving us owner talk right there. But we do get something out of him because, let's be honest, the Zoom press conference he had after the introduction press conference for Watson, if you watched that, that was kind of weird. Probably a good thing he wasn't with Barry and Stefanski because he just came across, I don't know. Jimmy Haslam, we can have a whole separate video about that guy. But in the meantime, let's shift gears here a little bit. Mock drafts are coming up. I know the Browns don't have a first-round pick anymore, but you know what? It's still mock draft season. Help us reach 6,900 subscribers for a couple of reasons. One, it's a nice number. Two, if you do it, I'll do a mock draft here. So if you guys want to see more draft coverage, and you know what? Even the Browns don't have a first-round pick. Who can we get in the second round? Subscribe. That way you can stay tuned for a mock draft coming your way later this week. On to the second half of today's show, the latest on the Baker Mayfield trade front, because Andrew Berry, Stefanski, they're all in West Palm Beach right now at the NFL meetings, and people are asking them, the reporters are doing their jobs. And I saw this rather interesting quote from Andrew Berry. I want to share it with you guys. On Baker Mayfield trading, I wouldn't say we have a specific timetable for the QB room. Baker is a professional. I thought he was an adult, though. He's under contract, and we have the flexibility whether he's on the roster or not. So we don't feel pressed to rush into anything that's suboptimal. That's rather interesting that you say you don't feel pressed to rush into anything that you don't feel is the best outcome for you. Because Kevin Stefanski, not long ago, was asked about Baker Mayfield. And he said this, I think everyone understands the situation, and we're hoping that it is resolved soon. It's a unique situation. We've got to see how it plays out. I think all of us would love an answer yesterday, but that's not the reality of it. So Barry is saying, we're not rushed. And Stefanski going, I wish it was done yesterday. It's a little interesting that the two sides are on two different paths here. Ultimately, I think the Browns have two routes here to get Baker Mayfield off their roster because they don't want to pay him $18 million to be the backup quarterback. Plan A, in my mind, is the NFL draft. What do I mean by that? Let's say the Panthers, okay, want Malik Willis bad at number 6. And they don't get him because the Giants at 5 say we're done with Daniel Jones. We want to get Malik Willis. Well, if a team doesn't get the quarterback they were banking on in the draft, Baker Mayfield may be their plan B. Right? It may be we're going to draft Malik Willis. If we can't get him, we trade a future pick for Baker Mayfield. Plan B, come training camp, a starter gets injured. You never want to hope for that because that's sad and that's not what we want to see in the NFL. But that may ultimately be the next option for the Browns is if, I won't even give a name out, but if someone gets hurt in training camp and there's a team that feels like they are ready to compete and they can get Baker Mayfield for cheap a little bit, right? They can fleece the Browns because the Browns got to move on from at some point anyway. If it's August at that point, that could be another route the Browns go or end up having to follow if a starter gets hurt in order to get rid of Baker Mayfield. So when will Baker be traded? We've asked where he'll be traded. When do you think it's going to happen? Is it going to be around the draft? I hope so, because I think that could be a good route. Like I said, if a team doesn't get their favorite QB in the process, but maybe not. Let me know what you think down below. Could you imagine if he does not get traded and Deshaun Watson were to get suspended for X amount of games and Baker's the backup? Like, I don't envision a world where Baker takes a snap again for the Cleveland Browns. Now, I kind of thought that when the Panthers moved on from Cam Newton and how quickly he came back, but this seems a little different, right? I mean, backup Baker, if Watson would, let's say, suspended, we'll call it 4 games, okay? Baker plays those 4 games to rebuild his brand a little bit, rebuild his image, and then he gets traded because everyone's like, oh, right, you are good. How funny would it be, though, if Baker went undefeated if he was backing up for Watson, and then Stefanski's like, damn, I don't know what to do, except you do know. All right, final segment of today's show. Did Watson end Lamar Jackson's time in Baltimore? It seems weird to think, but the amount of money Deshaun Watson got is not going to help out the Baltimore Ravens. So here are the new and updated highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL after a couple of contract negotiations. Rodgers coming in at a whopping 50 burger. Watson right behind him. This is per year, by the way, so this is not like a $46 million cap hit this season or something like that. But an interesting tweet came across from a Ravens beat reporter, Jamison Hensley, saying Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti on Deshaun Watson's $230 million guaranteed contract. I don't know that he should have been the first guy to get a fully guaranteed contract. To me, that's something that is groundbreaking, and it'll make negotiations harder with others. Yeah, like Lamar Jackson, the quarterback you guys are negotiating with right now, who's his own agent with his family. I bet it would make things difficult because Lamar Jackson just saw Watson get $230 million guaranteed. You don't think he's going to ask for something in that neighborhood? Now, Lamar did tweet this out, so it doesn't really fit my narrative, but I don't really care. I mean, I got to show it. This morning, he's saying, I love my Ravens. I don't know who the hell putting that false narrative out. That would be me. That I'm having thoughts about leaving. Stop trying to read my mind. Well, I would just love a world where you do leave the AFC North because, let's be honest, he's an MVP for a reason. But, it does make you wonder, could Lamar Jackson, outkick his coverage in terms of bargaining and go, I want $200 million guaranteed. And the Ravens go, we're just not going to do that. We're sorry that the Browns showed you that that's an option. We're not going to do that. Lamar Jackson plays out the final year of his contract, and he walks in free agency, to like Marsh's Giants, who Daniel Jones is not their guy. Pick a quarterback for me to wrap up the show. Give me the jersey number of the quarterback you think is better. 4 for Watson or 8 for Lamar Jackson. Let me know which QB you would rather have.